I don't know why I do the fourth one. Or I don't know why I do more than one. I still...
I think it's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a cool way to start.
Yeah, it's my trademark. Everybody knows that's my trademark.
Everybody who's anybody knows.
You've been waiting for it. The people have been clamoring. This is the first episode of Let's Get Trashed since March.
Woo!
Yeah, I took a brief hike. South by Southwest got crazy busy.
Yeah.
I was busy. All my fabulous co-hosts were all also busy.
I was so busy.
We were also busy.
Had a lot of events.
Events. It's event capital of the world, South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, which is, of course, where we're based nowadays and have always been. I don't know why I said nowadays like it's changed. Folks, we're back. That's what's important. You're welcome for being back. You've been begging for it. Here it is. And we're back, dare I say, with a bang.
Woo.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
What could we possibly be talking about other than...
Barbie.
Yeah. Other than the delightful biopic that is Bohemian Rhapsody. We're bringing it... No.
Little late to the party, but we're here.
Yeah. It was just such a magical movie. We couldn't give up talking on it. No, that's nonsense. Obviously, that's nonsense. That's junk, and you know it. We're talking about Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
So let's start off here.
Okay.
I saw it in like super duper real IMAX. I saw it on film. There's only a few like legitimate IMAX theaters in the entire country, 20 something. One of them is in Austin, and fortunately for me, the Austin one is really good. As far as the people that work the projector there still know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I heard plenty of IMAX 70 millimeter screens in the country. Of the 25 in the country, there was problems at a lot of them.
Oh, really? Just because
Yeah.
they weren't used to handling that much film?
They weren't used to handling, the actual film and doing all that stuff. It's such a high stress, high pressure event, I'm assuming.
And it's a long movie, too.
It's long as hell.
I think it's almost to the limit that movies on 70 millimeter can be.
Yeah.
So that they'll fit on the projector, right?
They had to build bigger trays for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I guess... Yeah, I'm not sure how IMAX is different from like film. I mean, I do know how IMAX is different from film. I don't know why there's not reels, because usually when you're a projectionist, every film, even a regular movie on film, the projectionist has like cues, and then they swap in reel 1, reel 2, reel 3, and there's like 5 reels for a movie usually.
There are those little things in the corner of the screen.
Yeah, the screen has those little like cigar burn marks.
Yeah.
Something like that pops up.
I miss those.
Yeah, me too. And then the projectionist knows, okay, now it's time to like click it over. Every image I've seen of Oppenheimer, because that's a big part of it, is like, wow, look at how crazy big the film is. It's been 400 miles of film on one giant roll.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why it's not on multiple reels.
Yeah, why does it have to be all on one thing?
Maybe you can't switch them over on IMAX. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know how the projectors are different.
Yeah, that's a good point. Either way, like I heard the River Center Mall, which is another IMAX theater, which has a lot of problems. Anyways, it's on the river. There's rats. It's a disgusting theater.
Yeah. I'll take your word for it. I've never been.
You've never been?
No.
I was realizing that's the only other like IMAX movie I've ever seen in my life is The History of the Alamo at the River Center Mall.
I saw The History of the Alamo I don't know if it was The History of the Alamo, but I saw an IMAX movie at the Bullock when I was younger about the Alamo. Maybe it was the same one.
Maybe. Yeah. I know that they always had that showing at like the mall in San Antonio. And if you're from South Texas like I'm from, that's such a common like part of a field trip.
Yeah, to go to San Antonio.
Yeah, you go to San Antonio is the closest big city of any import.
Yeah.
You go to San Antonio for whatever, and then one of those things is we go to the movie theater to watch the Alamo happen.
Never forget.
Never forget. Yeah, never forget. So other than that, I've never gone to the IMAX to see any blockbusters.
I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I saw. Man, I don't know what I've seen in IMAX. We don't have. When I grew up in New Mexico, when there's definitely not one of the 20 IMAX film projectors in the country is not there. But
right,
I've seen a lot of the like mini IMAX.
Yeah, well now
or the digital IMAX. Like I saw the other day. I saw it on IMAX 2 at the AMC, but in digital form.
Yeah, and now like even my movie theater in my hometown has like the XD screen, which is just a bigger, more square screen, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to the movies in my hometown in 25 years, probably 20 years. So I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, I guess it's like sort of a semi bigger screen, which is good because I'm watching this film filmed again completely in IMAX, which is 5:4 aspect ratio. So it's more squarish than what we normally think of movies, which is 16:9. So we're looking kind of at a square thing. It's an enormous IMAX screen. It's really beautiful. It's not that comfortable. The Bullock Theater is not that comfortable, especially for 3 hours.
Yeah, I bet.
Which is how long the runtime is for this movie, 2:47, something like
long.
that. Yeah, 2 hours 47 minutes. So sitting in the actual IMAX, sitting in the movie theater chairs is not that comfortable. I wish I would have been in a Alamo Drafthouse with a reclining chair or a Cinemark or something.
Yeah.
But you put up with it for the screen quality.
For the experience.
Yeah.
It's I'm not sure if our seats were that comfy either at our theater, but I did not notice, honestly. I was very riveted the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. How can you not be?
No, it was really it was a great movie. Can we say that now?
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah, we're getting out of the way. Obviously, it's a great movie. It's it's one of the best things I've ever seen, like film-wise put together. It's so well done.
Yeah, instant classic. Well made, well acted.
Has gravitas. I mean, it's it's on level of. I won't say it's as good as The Godfather, but it's up there with.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
In competition with The Godfather for like American. This movie is important to American cinema, and it's watchable. I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. I think I'll need to process it before I can compare it to like other films in the at least in a like legacy sense of like what are people going to talk about in 20 years or whatever.
Sure.
But I could definitely see it being an instant classic for sure.
Yeah, that's why I immediately, because I started thinking that right away, but I immediately put it under The Godfather because The Godfather stays with you in a more real way. The messages of The Godfather, like there's a culture of in The Godfather,
and it has so much around it too, like even outside of the film, like culturally significant film for so many years now. Like you're like even watching it as an experience, even if you're you're watching it for the first time now, like
sure. The other thing that makes The Godfather, puts The Godfather above a movie like Oppenheimer is that The Godfather has quotes.
Yeah.
You can quote. I know my favorite line from The Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
I know my favorite line from Oppenheimer, too.
Oh, yeah? What would you say?
Well, there's a couple of them. But it's the first time he quotes the Bhagavad Gita is my favorite line. But that's because of the context of what's happening in that scene. Yeah. I was... all right, we're in spoilers fully. It's a historical drama, folks. All these things really happened for the most part. There's a couple things that are subjective. It's not that it's fictionalized, but there is a couple things that the main character of Oppenheimer thinks might have happened or whatever. It's from his perspective.
Yeah.
So
it's not. There are definitely parts of it that are not factually provable, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
There's stuff that everything that happens in the movie he thinks is true. Whether that's the case or not that's not for him to decide, nor us, or that's for history. Or there's stuff that he thinks is possible that happens. Nevertheless, for the most part, it's a pretty historically accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
very historically accurate depiction of this process.
Yeah, I know it follows. I mean, it has everyone. It has all the important players in it, and it follows him. Would you say it's split into sort of 3 different sections?
Yes.
The first being the years before.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that's a good point.
They kind of jump around a little bit.
Yeah, which I've heard that from other people I've talked to. I've heard that as a complaint regarding this film is actually like the pacing of the first half hour, because it is kind of frantic. As the first half hour it's a rush to get us to where we all want to be. We want to be at atomic bomb headquarters.
Manhattan Project.
Yeah, in Manhattan, downtown Manhattan. I didn't watch the movie that closely. That's where it was, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we all, as a viewer, you're like, I want to see the atomic bomb happen, in a cinematic way.
Yeah,
you do need a half hour of Oppenheimer going to 15 different prestigious universities in Europe and collecting
sort of his superhero origin, his Avengers assemble.
He's got to collect theories and other scientist friends, like he's collecting fucking Infinity Stones. So we need him to go on his collection to get his thing. That's the beginning of the movie.
I did like one thing. I thought that part.
I loved it, but I've heard people complain that they didn't like that part of it.
I could totally see that sort of people kind of being like, oh, it's a little slow, or it's kind of this kind of the more historical
it's
part
frantic
of it.
Almost. It moves like he's in Cambridge, he's in
that's true,
Sorbonne,
yeah.
he's in something, he's like in.
Well, and I loved the part about it, or what they would do in it, where they would cut to the cool visualizations of atoms and stars and things exploding and colliding. It was really that was they kind of went away from that later towards the film, and then there was a lot of it in that first part, and it was really cool. It sounded so cool, and the sound design was amazing.
The score is great. The music is fabulous in this movie. It's great. The sound design is incredible. There's no way it won't win. I didn't notice this. My colleagues in the film criticism community over at Red Letter Media, shout out the boys at Red Letter Media. They made a point to say that all the dialogue scenes, the music's too loud.
Interesting.
I didn't notice that at all. I'm gonna look for that on a rewatch.
Yeah,
but that didn't occur to me at all. But that was the major complaint from the boys over at RLM.
Interesting. Well, there was nothing. Maybe those guys are getting a little old.
Yeah. You know what? Yes, you're on notice. All right, Mike and Jay, you're on notice because you're getting too old. If it's too loud, you're too old.
If it's too loud, you're too old.
You just said it's too loud.
I never had an issue with hearing dialogue. I thought that there were times when the background audio was almost uncomfortable. But I enjoyed that. I thought that kind of lent to the emotion that you were supposed to be feeling in that scene or whatever.
Yeah.
There's the whole part leading up to the test. There's this constant clicking noise in the background.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird sounds.
I'm pretty sure that was a Geiger counter.
Yeah.
I mean, or some kind of
radiation.
the
it would have either been the Geiger counter that's doing that frantic clicking that's picking up the radiation. And then also, of course, leading up to the test, the actual countdown of a ticking clock.
Yes, yeah.
That is, there's nothing worse than a ticking clock. Everybody knows it.
Speaking of the test, I kind of was curious what you thought about the explosion, because there's kind of a lot of talk about it beforehand, because he was Nolan's I'm going to do it all practical.
Let's get to that a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
I want to pace it out a little bit. We have that half hour of setup of him collecting theories or learning, becoming kind of the
Yeah.
becoming the guy that would eventually take over the theoretical physics department of Berkeley.
Yeah.
He needs to go to a bunch of school before that can happen, obviously. Like you mentioned, during that time, it's intercut with a lot of scenes of really beautiful abstractions. These molecules colliding, or stars exploding, or strings dancing. I don't think Oppenheimer had anything to do with string theory, which is a more contemporary.
Yeah. I thought those
model.
were supposed to be like electron paths or
Maybe,
whatever.
Sure, I don't know the difference. They look like strings to me. So they could have been something.
It was cool though.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very beautiful.
It was.
While he is a young man, a young scientist, engaging in the theory of physics for theory's sake, and he's just entertaining these theoretical things in his mind, his brain jumps to these beautiful scenes. It's beautiful imagery. This gorgeous, conceptualization of how our universe works, how matter is interacting with each other, all this stuff. Those scenes are really pretty and kind of soothing in a way.
Yeah, yeah. There's like a element to them too that's kind of like alien and sort of, in a way, like at least to me, when they kind of felt dangerous. Like the way that the atoms crackled, or like they sort of.
Sure.
The ambient noises that were surrounding them, like they were sort of like these things that were very beautiful, but also very like alien to us. Like unknowable in a way.
Absolutely, and the kind of thing that if you could just see it and witness it, it has a beauty to it. Those beatific images go away as he gets closer and closer to having to, when it stops being theory. When people stop being nice and start acting real, as we say in the real world here, those beautiful images stop coming him, and he starts getting haunted with. He's always haunted by imagery throughout the film. Yeah. The imagery he's haunted by stops being like, ooh, what a cool electron wave. What cool possibilities atoms might do. Because he knows what atoms can do.
Yes,
and it's not this beautiful burst of light, or pinprick or something or whatever. It's not cute anymore.
No, yeah. It becomes more and more. In you can see that in the way that his personality changes, right, to being kind of this sort of fun, kind of jokester kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he holds on to some of that, but I think he gets a lot more serious and somber as he kind of goes through the, getting all the responsibility of heading the team that's about to build the bomb. And then on top of that, actually building the bomb. And
sure. And then, so I guess that would be our second section. I don't know. Second act is he's at Berkeley. He's gets his position at Berkeley. He's, by all accounts, he's creating the first theoretical physics department in the United States. It starts small. He teams up with and I don't even know how to like structure this conversation about it, because the cast is amazing, and then also seeing actors like Josh Hartnett that I love being in this film and rocking. It's like awesome. It's so cool.
No, there was a lot of great performances when Gary Oldman comes in at the end, and
that was my favorite scene.
Yeah, I loved that scene too.
Yeah, there's a lot of great performances from. I mean, Gary Oldman is a guy you expect great things from. The guy you don't expect great things from is like Josh Hartnett. Where did he come from? Josh Peck.
Josh Peck from Drake and Josh.
He was he's a Disney Channel kid.
Yeah. He's got a big role.
Yeah. My favorite dude was the fat New York Jew scientist guy.
Oh yeah.
that becomes friends early on. I love that dude. He was the chubby friend in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh yeah.
Which somebody on Twitter pointed out that Nolan has used the entire cast of 10 Things I Hate About You. Heath Ledger, obviously Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
And then now this dude, the third friend, is now putting on amazing performances in a Nolan movie. So he rocks. This dude's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that character, and I mean everyone in this acts their pants off. It's great. I mean, there's some breakout performances. Florence Pugh's really good.
She's great in it. I love her in everything. I think she's top 3 like actresses working today. I don't think there's.
Yeah.
She's up there with. I mean, it's her as she's top 3 like working actresses, like really good. That I'm not counting obviously like Meryl Streep, who's obviously top 1. Helen Mirren is top 1. But I mean like of a younger generation, Florence Pugh's in the 3 that I can think of that are like good.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, what did you think about I guess that's the other thing in the first act. They set up the like romantic interests of the film.
I mean, I loved it. I loved all those scenes of it. I loved, Oppenheimer. Again, it's the 30s. He's entertaining these, like communist ideas. He's going to like parties and stuff like that. He's fine with like the unionization of the grad school staff or whatever. He's just on board with all that kind of stuff. He's a New Deal Democrat.
Yeah,
totally.
He's very left wing.
Yeah, well, he's a New Deal Democrat, which they ran FDR was president for 16 years or 14
like
years.
That,
He was president forever. So it's not rare. There's plenty of people that are like him that politically like that in the mid 30s.
Of course, tons of people.
To the movie kind of later on exposes that as like a downfall for him. He the ideas he flirted with in his youth come back to haunt him during McCarthyism years, all that kind of stuff. When anybody's looking for anything,
last part of the movie's about his, or the third act is about them going after him for that.
But either way, I thought it set up his meeting with Florence Pugh's character, which is a relationship he did maintain for a really long time up until the time of her death. Spoilers. And then meeting the other people and then he had like he had this reputation. In real life he has this reputation as a womanizer. This is not a thing I knew until after I watched the movie.
Yeah, no, me neither. And then ended up doing some research about it afterwards.
So it's a well-known thing. If I had read any books on Oppenheimer, I would have already known this. But I'm just watching. I know everything. Almost everything I know comes from the film, and they do such a brilliant way of like revealing that little by little.
Yeah, no, they do, and they do a good job of kind of keeping some of it towards the end of the film too.
Exactly. You don't even realize the magnitude of his like of his philandering until the end of it.
Yeah.
So it's brilliantly like done that way. It could have easily like sidetracked the movie to make it turn down some like lewd alleyway where we're just talking about his marital infidelities and shit like that. But that's not that important. So it's good that they just like sprinkled it in, but that they didn't like.
It's not like a central part of the story.
Yeah, it doesn't distract from what's really important.
No, yeah. I mean, it ends up being the relationship between him and his wife ends up being really fascinating. The more fascinating relationship, I think, of the two, which I kind of
Oh, sure.
I was impressed by, because they introduce her character and they're kind of like, oh, she's sort of the sexy love interest, and then his wife is sort of the one that he's like, running around with, and then their relationships ends up becoming getting a whole nother level as the film goes on.
Yeah.
But his wife, played by
Emily Blunt.
She was great in it too. She's awesome.
She was fantastic. Really, really well done. Taking her, like, not wasting a single moment of her screen time.
No, yeah, she's a real presence, and it's nice because it's not. It kind of subverts those expectations of, like, you do see so many films where with this conflicted main character who's cheating on his wife, and then her role in the film is just to yell at him when he comes home, or to like leave him when he's fucked up or whatever.
Right.
As opposed to actually having contributions to the story, and like big plot points are driven by her, like, actions and characterizations.
For sure. Interesting stuff, and also, again, realistic. She did stay with him, his entire
for the rest of
they stayed together,
their lives, at
least till the end of the movie. So they stayed together, which is obviously two things. It's much more common back then.
Yeah.
It is the 30s and the 40s and then the 50s, folks. All right, women were tolerating infidelities because they didn't have many other options.
They didn't have good options at the time.
And furthermore, and also, he's like a celebrated dude with money. To this day, women tolerate infidelities if your husband has enough money. That's also a thing that happens, so it's the Hollywood thing to do would have been like manufacture some sort of like extra, like try to find extra drama there to be mined. But I'm glad they just kept it real, kept it realistic, and kept it true to life.
Yeah. Well, and speaking on that, and speaking on true to life and realism, there was an interesting choice in the film to imply that Florence Pugh's character was assassinated.
There is, which again is a beautiful, like, 1 second.
Just
shot of a hand.
1 second of a hand holding her head underwater.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the real life details that her suicide note wasn't signed.
Mm-hmm.
Which, is that something you have to do?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would sign if I was writing a suicide note.
I've thought about it, and I was like, but then if I wrote a suicide note, would I like put like my name, like has to be my signature at the end? Like, I don't think I would sign it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd think that people would assume it was from you, but
I would have to. People would have to assume. That's kind of a thing that, again, Oppenheimer. The reason it's not fictitious is because Oppenheimer has these fears that the FBI killed her.
Yeah, he has fears in the film. I'm not sure.
I think those were his fears in real life as well.
I did a little bit of research and found that there were a few people who he never publicly claimed that happened, but there was a few people close to him that said that he had thought that, and her brother believed that for a time, and several people have put forward that theory.
Yeah. So that's why it's depicted in the film. Again, it's not a falsehood. It's not being made up. From his perspective, it's a possibility. He knew he was being tailed, obviously, as he went from place to place. The leader of the Manhattan Project can't just hop in a car and go drive off to a fucking Wendy's, because if there's a Russian at this Wendy's, they got to know that he's not talking to him. That kind of shit. His girlfriend being a super communist.
Yeah, being a communist, of course, and he goes to see her while he's head of the project.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be not at work, and he's going to see his girlfriend, subversively. They don't know what he's telling her. They don't know what she's going to tell other people. And so maybe they just killed her for good measure.
I mean, I'm I would believe it.
Yeah,
Personally, like
it's not crazy.
I could see the CIA doing something like that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, CIA, FBI, I mean, they're just getting practice in. It's 20 years later they kill Martin Luther King. So
the JFK, Malcolm X,
yeah, they're getting reps in before the headlines.
They're starting early.
So, possible again. That was a really chilling scene.
Yeah.
When she commits her suicide. And then, of course, him finding out about it, and then that leads to his wife finding out. She's like, "Why are you crying?" And he's like, "I've been seeing a woman behind your back, and she just killed herself, and I'm super bummed about it." That she's not happy.
And she's basically like, "Get your shit together. Like, you don't get to feel bad because you were the one who was doing a bad thing." Like, which is a great line. She's like, don't like, you don't get to feel bad about this. Like,
yeah.
I don't exactly remember the line, but she says something to that effect, and it's powerful and great too. Like, and she's right. Like, he needs to get his shit together and finish building the bomb.
Yeah, that's a little Hollywood-ish, and almost doesn't ring true for her to be like, "You got to get back to work on the bomb." I just don't know if that's almost like giving her the credit for keeping him on the track of like productivity, which I don't know. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that aspect of the film. Like,
it was a great scene, and Emily Blunt is just so charismatic. She's just so great at that as that character, and Cillian Murphy was astounding top to bottom. It works because they're both so good, but I can't not see that kind of thing and immediately get cynical about it and be like, this is Hollywood giving a woman the credit. Like, this dude was going to fall apart and we weren't going to have the atomic bomb, but she told him to straighten up and fly right at the expense of her own emotionality over finding out he was being unfaithful. I don't know. Maybe it's true.
I mean, who knows, right? Like, I mean, he also probably didn't say, "I become death, destroyer worlds," while he was having sex with someone. Like,
yeah, that part, I'm fine with that.
It's interesting.
I'm fine with those.
You pick and choose which ones for
yeah.
Bother you or not, right?
Well, there's some fun moments you need in Hollywood.
See, that was a fun moment for me, though. I see what you're saying, but I think
getting scolded by a woman is less fun than having sex with one.
Depends on which woman's doing the scolding, but everybody's got their thing, right? I do think though that like it is tough to watch this and then like. And I think that's a problem with any biopic, right? Especially when like this is about important stuff. Like this is like one of the reasons why it's such a good movie is because it's about a very important time in history.
Yeah, they really, did a good job. You don't have to manufacture drama for the most part, because if you don't think that this sort of event is dramatic enough, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean it's a very historically dramatic event, but I do think it's important to, like, while we're watching something like this, especially something that's about a real piece of history, to remember that it is just a movie. Like that they're,
sure,
like that we, if we want to find out a lot of real facts about the Manhattan Project, like we should probably watch a documentary or read a book. Like,
oh yeah, and I'm not going to, but for sure I should if I cared that much. But yeah, it is still a movie. You're right. The first, the two. I'll before we get to any like the other stuff, I'll say the two things I knew about Oppenheimer, just off the top of my head, before going into the film, other than like I knew he was involved in the atomic bomb and stuff like that. I knew the Bhagavad Gita quote,
of course, yeah,
and I still do. I think it's lame. I think it's so lame. I've collected a dozen memes of people like any meme that's like making fun of him saying that. I collect and save because it's such a him saying this like gravitas quote after the bomb goes off.
Yeah, it's
so lame. It's so planned. I know he's just a science dork, and he's trying to be cool, which I don't respect. And he's like, it's just having that at the hip, I am become death. Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. After your thing, like saying something solemn to nobody, after this test that you've been working on for 3 years. Like, what am I gonna say? Almost like Neil Armstrong. Like, what am I gonna say when I step on the moon? You gotta say something.
Yeah.
But that's also being broadcast to everybody.
That's true.
You need to have a line prepared there. And that one works because they fucked it up, or the audio cuts out, so nobody even heard the correct quote, and people misquote it to this day. But that's a broadcast to people, so that's like for TV. You got to say something. This is like just some nerdy, dumb bullshit he had to say himself that was like important to him. Well, which is why I don't respect it.
I'm sure he was made sure to say it louder too. Twice. He probably had to say it twice so that someone.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. He says the bomb goes off. He goes, I am become death, destroyer. If somebody comes, slaps him on the back, like, great job, dude. He's like, oh, thanks. Now I am become death, destroyer of. And then someone's like, woo, we did it. And he's like, yep. Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Like, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
He's trying to have his moment, and it's because it's pre-planned. It's fake, and it's just lame science dweeb. He's a dork.
Yeah.
He's a nerd, which is also, I don't like that about him. I'm fine with him building a giant weapon of mass destruction and destroying any sense of sanity and safety that humanity might have forever. That's cool.
That's cool.
Him being a dork bothers me. And then also the other thing I knew about him was also him being a dork when he goes to Truman's office. He finally gets to meet President Truman.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in there, all heavy, somber, looking for Truman. He's going to Truman like for, like to find solidarity. He's like, man, I feel like I have all this, I feel like I have all this blood on my hands. And Truman has to put him in his place and remind him, you don't have shit on your hands.
Yeah. You
didn't drop the bomb. I did. He's like, I'm the commander in chief. You're nothing. You're not that important to this process. I'm the guy that did it. So get out of here with your weepy bullshit, is what he said.
Yeah.
And then he like says literally, get that crybaby out. These are like the real life quotes. And that scene is done so well.
The scene's done well.
It's amazing. Yeah. And I was so hoping, I was worried that they wouldn't put that in. I didn't know if they would, because I didn't know going into it if they were going to make Oppenheimer be cool or if they were going to make him be the fucking loser dweeb I knew he was. And they did a good job of doing both.
Yeah, they did it. They walked the line on that, I think. That scene, the scene with Truman is
my favorite scene in the movie.
It's good. It's powerful. Gary Oldman does a great Truman.
I didn't even know that was Gary Oldman until after the film. I was watching it with the people next to me. We went and talked about it in the lobby, and they're like, that was Gary Oldman. I was like, oh shit. I was so enthralled by the performance, and I was so happy to see this scene that I wanted to see that it being Gary Oldman didn't even occur to me. All right. We're back, folks. There was just a quick pause to get a little bit more light on me and my co-host. All right. So we just discussed my favorite parts of the movie, or the things I knew going in were going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I was learning right along with the rest of you.
Well, now that we're firmly talking about the second act, now can you give me your impression, what you thought of the explosion itself?
The actual explosion, I thought was incredible, and it was the scariest scene in the movie. I was completely on edge. The silence leading up to the test bombing. They're all in their various bunkers. They're in their various positions, 10 miles away, 3 miles away in a bunker, 15 miles away on a hillside, whatever they're doing.
They're different, everyone's kind of at the different stages, putting on all their protective gear, laying down on the ground.
Doing all that kind of stuff. And then once everybody's set and it goes silence, and then the music and then the countdown and everything, I was so on edge as if I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was legitimately afraid of like, and it was so loud in that IMAX theater. It's wildly loud.
I bet.
And so I was like, is this going to hurt my ears? I almost covered my ears in a movie theater because I was thinking it was going to be too loud.
Yeah.
But I was it perfectly got me to where I was just completely on edge throughout of this whole sequence. And then the actual explosion, I thought was, gorgeous.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, it's crazy that they did it all practically. It was a little bit smaller than I thought it was going to be, the actual explosion. Like, I think maybe just than how I pictured it happening. I thought the lead up to it was really cool. I thought the explosion itself was cool, but maybe not exactly as like dramatic as maybe I had built it up in my head.
Yeah.
But I liked it a lot. I thought for me, the like scariest scene was when he's giving the speech.
Sure,
in
that
the
was like
gymnasium. That scene like kind of messed me up. But it was a similar feeling of like that, like ramping up, and they do that several times, right? Where it's like
that was the most unsettling scene for sure. As far as again, what we talked about earlier, his visions are no longer.
It's no longer
beautiful. What do atoms look like?
Beautiful pieces of the universe. It's death and destruction. That
the theory of how the universe works is no longer captivating him. It's instead the reality of how the world works. He does, he knew how the universe works. Now he has to know how the world works, and it's way different. Which is like such an important lesson that he learned. I hope he learned it. He should have, because that's all his struggles throughout this into the second and into the third act, which is of course all chopped up and interspersed throughout.
Yeah, well, and the whole theme of the film of like, or at least one of the themes of the film to me was, kind of like that idea of turning theory into reality, right? And then like this thing has become very, very real for him,
Sure.
The movie, I think, really wisely doesn't really ever show any of the devastation in Japan.
No, as it shouldn't. He didn't go to Japan.
Yeah.
So why would it? It's not about
that aspect of it. And I agree that like, to show any of that, you'd really have to tell that story, and you're not telling that story. So it's good that they don't show it, that they kind of just more show its effects on him and his like how he imagines, or, he knows what's going to happen to those people because he built the bomb.
Yeah. Well, the important thing, the most important takeaway, and again, what I hope Oppenheimer learned, I hope the lesson he learned, because what happened is that he built this devastating bomb thinking he was like, for a myriad of different reasons. A, he was told to. B, he feels some sort of kinship with Jews in Europe being murdered.
And he wants them to. He wants to try to defeat Hitler. They know Hitler's working on a bomb at the same time.
Hitler's working on a bomb. Anybody's working on the same kind of concept. He wants to be the guy that gets there first. He also has the ego of a scientist that thinks he can get there first.
There's like a pride.
Yeah. So he has all this stuff. He goes through all this. At the end of the day, he builds the world's most devastating advanced weapon, and then he gives it to bureaucrats.
Yeah.
That's and he gives it to bureaucrats, and that's the message. That's the problem with him. He finds out that the atomic bomb was dropped on Japan on the radio, the same way everybody else found out.
He does, yeah.
He's not special. You're not the guy. He has to learn, and even that didn't teach him the lesson, because he has to go to Truman's office, and Truman has to tell him to his face, "You're not the guy."
Yeah.
I'm the guy. You're not the guy. You found out about this shit on the radio. I'm the guy that said, I'm the guy that pushed the button. So he built this thing, and he just gave it to people, and that are much more
cold and
much more capable of using it than he is. And, and understand it much more in a sense than he does. You know, the commander-in-chief of the United States military is the guy that understands where bombs got to go, if anywhere.
That scene of them talking about where to drop the bomb.
That's another thing I didn't know. That's a true story.
That's a chilling scene.
The Secretary of War. Yeah, it's chilling. It is because it you can see the Secretary of War at the time strikes Kyoto off the list of possible targets.
Oh my God!
Because he went there on his honeymoon and recognized the cultural and he recognized the significance of that city to the Japanese people. And it's just a twist of fate that Kyoto was spared by this guy's personal anecdotal experience.
Yeah. That's
such an important development and such an important part of this, because not only people focus on like, oh my God, they're in Kyoto but for this wild coincidence go I. Mm-hmm. The other thing is you could look at that almost as like a selfish and cavalier kind of way. Mm-hmm. You could look at it him being like, I went to that city, I really liked it, I understand it, whatever. So we're not gonna bomb that one.
Yeah, that's sort of the takeaway that I had. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think of it like that. Although that's a reasonable thing to take from it. What I take from it is that this dude is not the people making these decisions. It's easy to paint them with this brush if they don't understand the consequences of this action. Oppenheimer thinks these people don't understand the consequences of this. Yeah. He thinks he's the only one that gets it. But they get it more than he does. This dude has been to Japan. He recognizes that Kyoto is an important cultural center. He recognizes that the Japanese are people just like us who have important cultural heritageal things that are meaningful to them, and that those things are important. He sees them as real people, and he sees that this is an important thing to them. So he spares it, but he drops the bomb 2 other places, even though we know he sees them as people. He's not painting them as it's the other thing that happened during that time is the Japanese are savages, and of course they were, especially with their war with China.
I mean that all that kind of stuff. Nobody in World War II is innocent for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But again, he's not even painting them as like, oh, we can just drop this wherever the fuck. They're all savages. It doesn't even matter where this goes as long as there's plenty of them there. He realizes that they're real people.
Yeah.
With similar emotions, similar connections to landmarks and monuments and history that we have. And he still drops it twice.
Yeah.
That's even more telling.
And I think that is I definitely agree with you to a point. I think that's, for me, that was one of the reasons it was so chilling, is because in that conversation there's not like anger or emotion, between the groups of generals and secretaries all talking. They're kind of just like very calmly like, okay, if we drop it here, we'll kill this many people. Okay, if we drop it here, this height, we'll kill this many people. And it's kind of like, yeah, like we know these are people. We're not believing our own propaganda. We don't think they're inhumans. We just don't care. Like, or we care, but we
think it's a necessity.
We've rationalized it.
Yeah, we've run the numbers. We've anticipated our losses if we proceed with Plan A. We've anticipated our losses if we proceed with Plan B, and contrasting to their losses and amount of stuff like, and it all becomes, again, Oppenheimer gave the bomb to bureaucrats.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too, like, and this is they talk about this in the film, and it's also something that that has come out in recent years, is that there was no way they weren't going to use the bombs, even if even if there was no good target, they had them. So
it's like Nelson said in The Simpsons, like you got to nuke something.
You got to nuke something, and so like that idea of like, oh well, we have to use these. We can use them here. It'll kill this many people. Like it'll send this message. Like.
Yeah, the first one being for Japan and the second one being for Russia or for the Soviets.
Yeah,
the first one is like, Japan, you guys better knock it off. You better realize that devotion to the emperor and fighting to the death, you can't. We can't do that. Then they have to do the second one to prove that the first one's not a fluke. We didn't get lucky. We can build as many of these as we want. Even at the time, they couldn't. They had 2, but everybody else is to think that we can do as many of these want. And then the second one also is for Russia, in the sense like, hey, we have 2, we use 2, and don't you get any ideas, because they were working on one of their own, and then also trying to take over all of the Chinese territory that Japan had conquered.
Yeah,
the same way that the Soviet Union extended into Germany.
Yeah.
They took that whole half of Europe into where the East and West Germany are split. They took all of Europe to Germany. They were going to do that all the way through China to Japan. The Soviet Union would have been whatever Chinese territory would still been under Japanese control if they had been a part of winning that war. So then we would have had another Berlin Wall on that side, and some Chinese city. There would have been a Shanghai Wall. There's a Berlin Wall. There's we've got Russia's sphere of influence on all this, Soviet sphere of influence on all this kind of stuff. And then what happens when they take over Chinese in production capacity?
The
stuff like yeah. The second bomb is they might have been able to get they might have been able to get that surrender after Hiroshima if they had waited a couple more days.
Yeah.
They gave them 3 days.
I mean, I personally, I would say I would have advocated and still would advocate not for dropping any atomic bombs on anyone.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
it's hard to say what would have happened or what wouldn't have happened, and it's easy to say like I would have not done this, but yeah. I think that like the important takeaway is like, regardless of how you rationalize it or what would have or wouldn't have happened, like part of killing, what did they count it out to, 220,000 people.
That's years later. That's counting all like the radiation sickness that lasted years.
Yeah, the late radiation sickness.
Yeah, that's after 10. That's whatever
that's
the
like
late
10
50s.
or 15 years later.
Yeah, they got to 220. I think is the number.
Yeah, which who knows how many people since then have had their lives affected by it. What a horrible.
It's a nightmare, and it's the kind of thing that obviously like shouldn't happen. But then again, if you're Truman, you look at it like, well, let's say we don't drop them, we do a land invasion, we lose. At the time, they were estimating 500,000 U.S. soldiers,
something like that. There's
current estimates are much lower than that.
Yeah,
people that have statisticians and mathematicians and military historians have gone back, and now that we have like decades old data on what the Japanese had and what the United States had,
and the sentiment of the Japanese people, I mean, like
we now, I think the now estimate is like 60,000 Americans would have died, but again, there's no way to know.
No way to know.
But
what would happen.
The idea of for Truman, anyways, I don't drop this, I condemn another 60,000 American soldiers to death. We win the war. It comes out that we had this weapon and I didn't use it. Mm-hmm. So now there's 60,000 families in America that lost somebody that didn't have to. If you're the president, that's a very striking like endorsement for what you have to do. Yeah. If that's your concern,
The other, another, and this is something that I was watching this documentary about Oppenheimer, before the movie because I was curious about some of the facts
Mhm.
about it. And another, they didn't mention this in the film, but one of the big reasons they picked Nagasaki is it's flat. It's very easy to see the effects of the bomb. So it's like if you don't use the bombs, it's kind of like a free test, right? Like if you use them on these cities, you can see what they do to a city and like see how far the devastation goes. Like you can't get that same from blowing them up in the desert. So
Yeah.
it's another part of it. And I think like they built the bombs. There's no way they weren't going to use them. I mean, even Oppenheimer says that too, like to the group of scientists when they're going through that moral quandary. He's like, there's no way that they're gonna. For us, like theory is so important. We're all theorists. These people aren't theorists.
Yeah.
So like for them, they have to see it for it to be real.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Great
and
point.
so like the ethics of using the bomb, the scientists are like, wow, what if we just never use it? And they're like, there's no way they're not going to use it. Like no matter if there's a good target for it or not.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's and then of course the other issue is Germany's working on the bomb on the other side.
And they kind of have that coming on.
Yeah, Germany's working on it. So again, that whole thing of like, well, who drops it first, them or us?
Yeah.
It's got to be us. And then of course, once they drop it, the Soviets are quickly having their own. Benny Safdie as Teller. I don't remember what's Teller's first name. I don't think I even remember it, but Benny Safdie gives another great performance.
He's really good.
He's so good. He's an incredible actor, and he's great in this as scientist Teller, who conceives of and focuses his energy on the hydrogen bomb. He's already working on a bigger bomb.
Oh yeah, and then the hydrogen bomb, a whole argument becomes really important in the third act of the film.
Yeah. Oppenheimer trying to put the genie back in the bottle, trying to like stop production of the hydrogen bomb, but it's already too late.
Yeah.
But his reluctance to endorse that, or his like kind of putting the brakes on it, is what sours him. Is one of the things that like sours him with the scientific community around him, and then also now we get to Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
And his role as Louis Strauss. Louis Strauss. Yeah. Who's head of the Atomic Energy Commission, and then also running in contention for a cabinet position in whose administration? I guess this would have been Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, maybe.
It's after Truman. So
after Truman,
it's either Eisenhower or
maybe whoever was after Eisenhower.
Who was after Eisenhower?
I don't know.
Was it Kennedy? It's definitely not.
It's not Kennedy.
It must be Eisenhower.
It must be Eisenhower then. Yeah. Yeah, Kennedy gets name dropped in the end.
He does. They
just a little bit.
Yeah, they drop it as like a like a nugget. That's a kind of a Marvel thing to do.
It's like a weird like it's if it's. I kept thinking this during the movie, but I was like, it's if Marvel was like a history book of like, and look, who is that? It's Einstein.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, oh, is that Enrico Fermi in the back? Like,
yeah.
It's like Marvel for like history nerds. It's so funny. Like,
yeah, because they don't even do it like obvious, like who turned against you. It's Senator Kennedy from Massachusetts, which is like such an obvious thing. But instead they like they voted against you. Who like that new young senator from Massachusetts.
Yeah,
no, that new young senator and a couple other people. It's like, what's his name? Kennedy
something.
It just drops it with and
I was like,
the audience is going, ooh, like I know that, like it's an Easter egg. Like John F. Kennedy's voting record is an Easter egg in this film.
So funny. It's really great. I mean, like it works somehow. It works. Like
it's great. That's a cinematic.
Like
that's the cinematic. The movies are back, baby. That's movie magic right there.
Movie magic right there. Yeah. No, that's fair. I think movie magic is a good way to describe how I felt during a lot of this film, for sure. And that whole third act, like, I didn't know this until later, but the black and white scenes are all supposed to be from Strauss's perspective, and the color scenes are Oppenheimer's perspective.
Yeah, I had read early beforehand that actually what Nolan was doing with that was the same thing he's done with a dozen other movies, or a lot of his other movies, is like the black and white is more objective historical fact, and then the color is Oppenheimer's like subjective experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so things that are in color, it all takes place as a memory. Things that are in color are what Oppenheimer's remembering. Things that are black and white are what Oppenheimer's experiencing. Oppenheimer and Strauss are experiencing in modern day.
Mm-hmm. Like it strikes all from Strauss's like flashback that he's having in that modern day scene.
Yeah, in Oppenheimer's like or trial, secret
modern,
trial,
more modern day scene, I guess it.
Yeah, but that Oppenheimer's secret trial, and then of course Strauss's Senate confirmation hearing. That's like current day stuff. That's the late 50s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
58, 59, whenever it was. And then all the stuff in the 20s, 30s, and 40s is Oppenheimer's like subjective memories.
His memories, yeah.
Which is why we can show a hand murdering his girlfriend, drowning her in the tub.
Because that's
not black and white. That was in color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a possibility that he entertained in his mind.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I loved sort of that rivalry between him and Strauss in the end. I think was like, for me, that was the least interesting part of the movie, just because I didn't necessarily. I thought that part got a little complicated.
Yeah, it did. It got very complicated,
just with how many different people were involved and the people who who told who what. And
sure.
I think I didn't get lost, but I think I was definitely having to like keep up.
Before I watch it again, because I already have a ticket for a couple weeks before it leaves IMAX. I'm seeing it again at the same theater.
Mm-hmm.
But before I do, I'm gonna read some history so I have a little firmer grasp of what Strauss's problem is. I'm not even
Well, he really their theory was, at least in the film, was kind of that he was upset at Oppenheimer for making him look like an idiot at that conference.
Yeah, so the there was a debate whether it was safe. The United States had a supply of isotopes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe? They can be used for medical reasons. Is it safe to send it to Europe to help them medically, send it to some medical facility, science facility, or whatever? Is it safe to send it to Europe for medical purposes, or if it gets sent, will they get hijacked and taken to Russia, or to the USSR and be used in the advancement of their weaponry? And Strauss is against it. Oppenheimer's for it, and he dunks on Strauss a little too hard. Is what they say. He's showboating. He's out there showboating. He's doing a behind the back dunk, making Strauss and his argument look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that's enough for Strauss
and the H-bomb disagreement thing, I think, is the other part.
So that's what pissed Strauss off against him, was this isotope export thing. The Oppenheimer's reluctance to fully back the H-bomb project, that's what soured Teller against him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Strauss was able to use Teller as a tool against Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and
Teller's I did learn a little bit about Teller. He's a legit fucking psychopath.
Really?
He wanted to bomb an Inuit village in Alaska,
just to see what would happen
as an H-bomb test.
Jeez.
He was like, we should bomb this village because we can then build a deep water harbor and testing site, and then also we should he's like yeah, we should bomb. This is an American territory. It's not
yeah.
It's not a state yet, but these bombing American citizens almost. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. He's a nightmare, dude.
And thank God the United States only did their nuclear bomb tests in Bikini Atoll.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
completely destroyed that
They got
beautiful
it.
place.
Yep. Yeah. Luckily, they didn't listen to him. They did do a test somewhere in Alaska, but most of the testing was in the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so nobody can say the United States wasn't super responsible with all their bombs. It's not like we made 28. It's not like we made 30,000 bombs and 2,800 of them are unaccounted for currently. You know.
Yeah. It's not like that.
Again, you made a bomb and you gave it to bureaucrats. That's the lesson to be learned.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the what did you think about that? That great sort of like the last few scenes with Einstein and like some of those. Are we there yet? Where are we?
Yeah. I loved all the Einstein scenes.
Einstein scenes were great. Who played him? He did a great job.
I don't know.
I should look him up.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. He was great. Those scenes were great. Like many others, I want to see much more of Einstein. You know, I wish Einstein had been there a bunch. It's not real life. Einstein wasn't around. Einstein and Oppenheimer had a cordial friendship or whatever, but they certainly weren't close.
Yeah.
And let me see who played Einstein. If it'll even tell me. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Please stand by.
Yeah. Hold on, everybody. Come on. I'm out of practice. I didn't take any notes. I'm not even looking at the right. Oh, Tom Conti played Albert Einstein.
Tom Conti.
Yeah, what the hell has he been in? He's been in not a lot, dude. Oppenheimer is his big thing. Oh, he was in... No, that's something. He was... Okay, he's in Paddington 2, and then 2017's Murder on the Orient Express. Wait, what the hell is this? Thunderball, the radio play. That's insane that they did that. He was a prisoner in The Dark Knight Rises. Okay. That's his Nolan. That's when he met Nolan.
Oh yeah, he's got another Nolan.
Yeah, this dude is in nothing. This dude stinks. All right.
Well, he did a good job. I liked him.
I liked him a lot. And I also like that relationship between Oppenheimer and Einstein of like, you know, look, they're not close, but they certainly have a mutual, if not begrudging, respect for each other. And then, you know, we might destroy the entire world with this. He's like, I got to go get a second opinion. Let me go to Einstein. I loved that scene. He's like, just look at this piece of paper. I don't know how accurate that all is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either on that specific scene, but
he hands him a napkin. You know, that's like almost the cocktail napkin scene. Like he hands him a napkin with science on it, and Einstein looks at it and is like, this seems right to me. Like, I don't know.
They did do a pretty good job of like not doing too much of the like beautiful mind, like genius thing. Because he's wrong a few times. Like Oppenheimer's like wrong several times in the movie, and like has to go through other people and kind of fall back to other people, which is cool.
Yeah, they did a good job of making it like a team effort
and a more realistic portrayal. I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure it's realistic and exposing Oppenheimer's like weakness. Obviously, you know, him being purely a theoretical physics guy.
Yeah,
but he's next to the real physics department or the experimental department.
Yeah.
That scene right at the beginning was really good when he's first at the Berkeley thing and he's like, they split an atom over in Germany. He's like, here's the science.
Oh, yeah. He's like, it can't be done.
Done. They didn't do it. It's like, really? Because we just did it next door.
We literally just did it, yeah.
And it's like, that's a lesson for him to learn. It's like, oh, theory only takes you so far.
Yeah. No, and
at some point you got to do
that
it.
A lot. Yeah, no, I think especially, man, it was so bizarre to like have that final, my personal experience, to have that final line, you know, like, I'm worried we have created a chain reaction that will destroy the world. So good.
That final line is great. I love that I love that when we finally see what happens between him and Einstein at the very end. You know, he's like, I'm afraid I gave him the keys to destroy the world. It's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, and he's kind of got that vision of like the nuclear fire destroying the earth, and but to have that scene immediately and then to walk out as Barbie is getting out just across, and there's like just like the people from Oppenheimer and the people from Barbie are like mixing and mingling, and it's just like so funny.
Yeah, Oppenheimer's great. I can't wait to see it again.
I think I'll see it again too.
I'm gonna go see it again at the IMAX theater. Just even though I wish I would go see it in like a more comfortable seat, but the IMAX screen. What's great is that this is an office drama. They're just standing in front of chalkboards next to desks. There's
no conflict, there's no fights, there's no physical altercations in this movie.
There's no action at all except for the dropping of a test bomb in Los Alamos.
Yeah,
there's no reason for this to be on IMAX.
It works though.
There's enormous. I'm watching. It's beautiful. There's quadrants of the screen that are just an out of focus chalkboard in the background, or an out of focus mountain range as they're walking around outdoors, New Mexico.
Oh, or love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's so epic and cinematic. But it's just like most of the screen is there's nothing going on. It's just Cillian Murphy's face
arguing about science or whatever.
It's a workplace drama.
The best ones I've seen, but definitely yeah,
it's so good. So many great performances.
There's too much to talk to about it. Like I'm like, man, we could keep talking. We could keep talking about this movie all night.
I thought everybody was like really, really great. What did you think of Robert Downey Jr.?
I liked him. I thought he was good. He was. He played sort of. He played it well. Sort of like the twist that he's a villain. Kind of was surprising to me because I was like, oh, this guy's not knowing the history of his character. I was like, oh, this guy's cool. He's he's looking out for Oppenheimer, and then he kind of as it's revealed that he's been pulling the strings. Robert Downey Jr. really switches his demeanor, and he plays a good villain, because he's not like cartoonishly evil or anything. He's like out for his own good.
He's politically evil. He's just a political guy.
And he points out some of the stuff about Oppenheimer, which is probably true. Like that Oppenheimer wanted, love, one of his big problems with the H-bomb wasn't his.
Yeah.
Which is
possible.
Definitely a possible theory and plausible. He was kind of an egomaniacal guy in some ways.
Yeah, that whole turn, and then that kid Alden Ehrenreich, the kid that played Han Solo.
Yeah,
he did a really good job. I liked him.
I liked him a lot.
Robert Downey Jr. I don't know. I thought he was okay. I don't know. I'm conditioned not to like him.
Interesting.
From
the Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's just been don't be that guy for 15 years, and don't now you're trying to do real acting. Like it just that Chris Rock had back in the 90s had a great joke about like Whitney Houston, and he's like people aren't gonna she had a drug problem, and he's like you gotta prove to people that you're sober. One album's not going to be. I need 3 crack-free albums before I'm willing to trust you again, Whitney. That's the same thing. I need 4 more performances like this from Robert Downey Jr. before I'm like willing to say he's good again.
Wow. I mean, I know I certainly don't want to be tarred and feathered out of this house, but some people say his performances in the Marvel movies were good.
Yeah, calm down. No, the first.
Who hurt you?
I wish I could remember. What I said, because I talked to a friend of mine as I was driving home from the theater. I talked to my friend Steve, who was the original co-host of Let's Get Trashed, and him and I were just on the phone talking about it. And I said something about how that first Iron Man movie was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the first Iron Man movie. Okay, that was good.
And then, but now in hindsight, it's almost like the atomic bomb itself. That movie was like that movie was good, and it was like an interesting test. But I had to live through a fucking 15 years of a Cold War after it.
Oh, the cinematic Marvel.
The cinematic Marvel universe is just, I'm surrounded by atomic bombs on all sides, and I make me feel bad. So now this one movie being pretty good
of course
looking back at it now, I'm colored. I wish it never happened. Just like this bomb, So I don't know if that's what I said, but this is even funnier than what I said, maybe.
That's good.
But yeah, anyway, he was great. I'm not ready to forgive him yet. It's just not McConaughey redeemed himself, and he's now one of our best actors.
Yeah.
Maybe Robert Downey Jr. can get back to it, but I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do next. Don't forget, the last thing he did was Dr. Dolittle. So, he's not interested in...
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's made some questionable decisions for sure. I think Dr. Doolittle's a big one for me.
Yeah, that was his step. That was what he did after, all right, I'm done with this Iron Man character. I'm trying to get back to being a real thespian. You have anything about... you have any remakes of talking to animals?
What if I stick my hand up a dragon's ass?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see how far my acting can go. What if I stick my hand up a CGI dragon's ass?
Frankly, I'm starting to think Christopher Nolan might be the director that gets the best performances out of like anybody. So it might not even be Robert Downey Jr. might not even have anything to do with it. Nolan might just be the guy because Alden Ehrenreich, this is his best performance ever. The dude. Whatever, the dude from 10 Things I Hate About You, this is certainly the best thing he's ever done. That guy rocks in this movie. I loved him.
He's good.
Josh Hartnett, who I'm a forever Josh Hartnett fan because I love the movie Lucky Number 11 so much.
I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Great. It's great. It's one of my favorite like crime dramas ever. Lucky Number 11 is a banger. I love Josh Hartnett for it. Hartnett can do 1,000 bad movies as long as they're not Marvel. And I'll still ride for that dude on the strength of Slevin alone. And then now Oppenheimer, he's great. I didn't even recognize him just because it's been 20 years since he was in anything.
Cillian Murphy?
No. Josh Hartnett.
Oh, Josh Hartnett. Oh.
Cillian Murphy was perfect.
Oh, he's good. I mean, Cillian Murphy's so good and everything. He did a great job with this guy. I mean, it goes without saying. I think he could get an Oscar for this.
I think it'd be a crime if he didn't.
Yeah. No, and I think, yeah. No, he was great. Like we said before, Florence Pugh and Emma Stone were both great. The
Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt.
Oh, Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
Did I call her Emma Stone?
Yeah, you said Emma Stone. She would have been good in this.
She would have been great.
She's great in everything.
Yeah, I think she played one of the bombs, but it was like just a lot of makeup, so you could barely tell it was her.
Yeah, Benny Safdie was great. I mean, he's a good actor. It's too bad. I hope he doesn't leave directing for acting.
Rami Malek, he was good too.
Malik was, he had a small part. I don't care for Malik. I don't think I can't think of a single thing I've seen that he was in that I thought was like that good. But he had a really small part in this, and he was good. It was funny to see people like that, like they'd introduce some random scientist, and you'd be like, wait a minute, they're gonna have a more important part, like that's Rami Malek or whatever. The entire movie, you're like, I recognize that guy.
Yeah,
I recognize that dude. I recognize that dude. It's all that.
Yeah. The what's his name? Who played the slimy security officer guy? He was in like the Spider-Man movies. Oh, you wouldn't remember that, but he's been in a few. The guy with the glasses, the younger.
Which security? Oh, well,
Matt Damon's like lackey guy. Oh, Matt Damon was great too.
Matt Damon was awesome. Matt Damon was perfect. Casey Affleck was great. Casey Affleck was scary.
He was scary.
The other guy was really good. I don't know who that is. He has kind of like Paul Dano face.
He does have a little Paul Dano face.
He's got a flat white face.
Yeah. Well, he played the new Goblin in the Spider-Man movies.
Which ones?
The not the new ones, but the Andrew Garfield ones.
Oh, he's Andrew Garfield's Goblin?
Yeah, he's the
Okay, that's the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man.
That's the Emma Stone Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
Okay. I only saw the first one of those, I think.
Yeah. He was in the second one.
Okay, the second one was with Jamie Foxx as well and Paul Giamatti.
Mm-hmm.
It had a third villain?
3 villains, yeah. Jesus. It was bad. I mean, Paul Giamatti's only in the very end of it. So
Ugh. Anyway, okay. Yeah, that guy was good. I forgot about him. I mean, he was definitely like bothersome. The Casey Affleck reveal was great, and Affleck was. I thought it was Ben Affleck because I heard the voice.
Oh yeah, they did
know,
that a lot where they wouldn't show someone's face at first, and then you kind of have to guess who it was.
Yeah, and that Casey Affleck, that scene. This is the last scene we'll talk about, but Oppenheimer being like cornered, and also he's like trying to get him off the scent of one of his grad students, communism things, or so
there were so many uncomfortable scenes like that, where he's like kind of being interrogated by people, or like
he's trying to be political and he's just not good at it. He's trying to like he doesn't understand who he's dealing with.
No, yeah,
that's a running theme. He doesn't understand who he's dealing with, Robert Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and like how serious they are and like how dangerous they are.
Yeah, so he's like, maybe I can throw him a bone and they'll stop hounding my grad student who's trying to pass out a fucking socialism newsletter in the lobby.
Yeah.
They are going after this kid unfairly, or just, relax. But he's like, well, I did hear about this other dude that was maybe that instead of them being like, okay, yeah, we'll look into it, and then them diverting all their resources away from his friend, they're like, no, sit down, tell us everything you have to go. He's like, oh shit, I just realized I'm
in deeper than
I didn't think you would question me on my lie about I didn't think you would question me further about my associations with a known communist. I guess without the other thing is, I don't know, obviously the communism in the 30s and 40s that was prevalent in the United States, like the Communist Party, is very every time I ever hear of it in other films, Good Night and Good Luck, which was a McCarthy era stuff, a great McCarthy era or film about
Edward
that.
R. Murrow. I like Good Night and Good Luck. It's a great film.
But also another movie that's great is The Front, which is a Woody Allen film.
I don't think I've seen The Front.
It's great. Woody Allen plays like some normal guy, but he's friends with these Hollywood writers that are blacklisted.
Oh yeah,
they can't work. They give Woody Allen their scripts to pass in as his own. So he goes from being a nobody to being like the best writer in Hollywood because he's getting 3 top dude scripts. He's turning in shit constantly. Anyway, it's a great communism thing. But the thing I don't understand, and it's always been presented in film this way, so I need to look at it. But why this communism sympathies in the United States? Why that always translates and extends into cooperation with the Soviet Union? Like,
well, I think for a lot of people it didn't. Like, or you mean like why the government would assume that it would, or like why?
No, well, maybe it didn't, and that's why. But again, that was a thing presented in the film, was that we can get stuff over to Russia. We'll get stuff to the Soviets if you let us. I can get them information. But why would that even be your thing? If you're a communist in America, why is the answer, oh, Russia has to win the world war so that we become Russia? That'd be like today. Like, if you're a communist today, is like, oh man, I really hope China defeats America in a war so I can live in Chinese America. That can't be the answer.
Yeah, no. When I think a lot of like, I think the communism of Russia changed a lot between the 30s and the 40s, because that's when Stalin took over from Lenin and turned it into a much more totalitarian regime, having very little to do with like any of the really actual tenets of communism at all, as Marx laid them out, and as a lot of Americans were following, because they were all New Deal, based on the socialism, from
New Deal Democrats and social, whatever, social safety nets and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. Either, but I don't understand it. It's certain. It was effectively used to hinder Oppenheimer's political career when it became convenient to do so, which is a true of any McCarthy era politics.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, so it's like it's great, you know. I mean, at least you know, all I'll say about that aspect of it, the film is this is like the like different historical eras that the film is going through are so like there is so much like fear and like mistrust towards like so many different groups. You know, in the beginning they're talking about the Nazis, and then halfway through, you know, and he even says it. He's like, "Who are our allies in this war? Like, you're so worried of the Soviets," and they're like, "We're all thinking ahead." You know, like it's kind of like we have to have this enemy.
Right.
You know?
I thought the Soviets were our allies. It's like for now, you know, he just doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the world. He understands the universe, and that's not a.
Oh, that's a good line.
You know what I mean? That's not a helpful. It's not a practical way to live.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great movie.
Check it out for sure.
Definitely go watch it. If this movie makes money, well, Nolan will get to continue making movies. Hopefully, more interesting movies like this will get made. Did you see the bad news on the horizon today?
Oh no! What happened?
This Mattel has signed off on 14 films of 14 different Mattel toys. The success of Barbie means we're going to get a Polly Pocket movie. We're going to get a fucking G.I. Joe movie. We're going to get a fucking not G.I. Yeah, whatever.
We've got our G.I. Joe movie, unfortunately.
I don't even know any Mattel toys. They're going to make a movie about Uno. They're going to make what's the punching robots?
Punch Out.
No,
not Punch Out.
Rock'em
Sock'em Robots.
They're making those. Eddie, you know, they're learning all the wrong lessons from Barbie.
He-Man.
Sure.
I mean, they could. Hey, listen. I think you can make a good movie out of anything. If they make a good movie off those things, then whatever. Is it going to be bad? Probably.
You know what it's going to be. It's going to be the Mattel expanded universe. It's gonna suck. 2 films from now will be entirely green screen, cutting costs, maximizing profits.
I mean, that's probably
hire
true.
some car commercial director to direct it. You know, they did not learn the lesson of why Barbie was a success as it was. We're not talking about Barbie today. Anyway, thank you folks for your patience. Thanks for sticking with me through the Let's Get Trashed hiatus, but we will be coming back. I might not be able to do it every week as much as I would like to, although into this very casa that I live in will be coming Jimmy D pretty soon, so hopefully I can, wrangle him for more frequent podcasts. And then obviously have Andres back as many times as I can.
I'm happy to come back, but I would love to get a horror movie in there now.
Yeah, let's do it. I haven't seen a horror movie in a while. The last horror movie I saw was Past Lives. Kidding, it was actually really beautiful.
Nice.
I liked it. Anyway, I'll let you. I'm not going to try to stick to I might be a little more fluid with my release schedule. I don't have a deadline like the guys building the atomic bomb did. So I'm not going to put that pressure on myself anymore. All right. Also, I'm also worried. Am I scabbing right now by promoting films and with the film podcast? With all the writers and actors on strike.
We're not promoting film. I mean,
No.
we're reviewing.
Go see in this one.
Yeah, that's true.
I am telling people to go see this one.
That's true. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm not in the union, but
we're not promoting any upcoming projects. I think that's okay. I think we're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sure if I would love to get it, if I get enough viewers to where SAG or the Actors Union or the SAG or WGA, if they feel they have to reach out to me to tell me to stop, if I make it to that point, A, if they ask me to stop, I will, and B, I mean I'll have made it if I get to that point. I doubt they'll even find out about it. I hope the actors get what they want. I don't know. I'm less worried about the writers, I think. I don't know. I would be more sympathetic to the writers if they had written anything good in the last fucking 20 years. It's like it's the same thing with there's a great I'll end with a Greg Giraldo joke, but he's making fun of teachers. He's like, teachers always like, we don't get enough, we need more. Greg Giraldo goes, well, maybe if you put out a couple kids that knew how to read in the last 20 years, we'd be willing to give you a fucking raise.
Great.
Anyways, that's obviously nonsense. I'm being silly, folks. I don't know how to do this anymore, but expect plenty more of it. Thanks so much. Thank you, Andres.
Thank you.
And I'll see y'all later.